Hello, I am your teacher, Mr. Pacitti, and this is my classroom here in Washington, D.C. So put away your mobile phones, put away your slinkies. It's time to concentrate. It's time to study. This is SmackDown 1000! And this is graded. First off, I just want to say thank you very much to everyone who tuned into last night's live reactions featuring myself and Jack the Jobber, except Jack the Jobber didn't turn up because he slept through his alarm, so I was sat there on my own for 2 hours, and then halfway through the stream, all of YouTube went down, so I was actually sat there on my own for 1 hour, not knowing if people could even see or hear me, so it was a successful stream. Fun. So we kick things off with a lovely little video package highlighting some of the more memorable moments from the previous 999 episodes of SmackDown, featuring stuff like Austin and Booker in the supermarket, John Cena's debut, Eddie and Chyna, which was really lovely to see, and Michael Cole and Heidenreich, which was unexpected to see. I always enjoy seeing these video packages because it makes me realise just how much of my life I've wasted watching professional wrestling. So that was nice. To the ring, and it's time for Truth TV with R-Truth and Carmella, and admittedly, not the way I thought we would be kicking off the 1000th episode of SmackDown Live. Truth says that he's been on the air for many years, and then Carmella says that actually no, Truth TV has been on the air for 1 episode and it was cancelled immediately. Dance break, obviously, and then Truth says that his next guest needs no introduction. Dance break, again, get on with it. His first guest tonight is none other than Stephanie McMahon. So out comes the current Raw commissioner to an absolute chorus of boos. She talks about how she was the first ever SmackDown GM, but is quickly interrupted by her brother, Shane McMahon, who we haven't seen in like 8 months. He's wearing some bloody lovely shoes, and actually really happy to see him. So like me, the crowd are very happy to see Shane. He gets a huge pop, and you know what? Let's just put aside for one moment the fact that this man who is a middle-aged dad was presented as a viable opponent for the likes of AJ Styles and The Undertaker, and it's just hit me that AJ Styles is also a middle-aged dad and The Undertaker is an actual senior citizen, but Shane McMahon. Lots of cheap pops from Shane. He squabbles with Stephanie McMahon, but then they are quickly interrupted by the McMahon that we all really wanted to see, Linda McMahon. It wasn't Linda, unfortunately. It's old mental Vince who comes to the ring, doesn't say much at all, calls for a dance break. All 5 of the people in the ring dance. End of segment. How the hell do I grade this? It's always nice to see Vince. It's fairly nice to see Shane. It's never nice to see Stephanie. So I guess that equals out a C. You deduct a grade because this was all really, really pointless. And then you add a grade on because it was just a bit of fun. And then you deduct a grade because it kicked the show off and it could have been far better. So you're left with a D. I'll give them the D. Next up is the WWE Champion AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan taking on some unlikely opponents in the Usos. Good match here, and nice to see such a strong showing for Jimmy and Jay, who actually pick up the win in this one after Daniel Bryan accidentally hits AJ Styles, then AJ gets super kicked, and then Daniel gets double super kicked, and as I say, an unexpected win for the Usos, a strong showing indeed. Giving this match a B, it got the crowd hot after a slightly confusing opener, and I like the way that this match was presented. Jimmy and Jay got the win because they are the more experienced tag team. Daniel Bryan and AJ don't tag together, and it was their lack of experience as well as that miscommunication that led to their downfall, and that's the way that tag team wrestling should be presented. We then go backstage with current SmackDown GM Paige, who is joined by Vicky Guerrero, who is then joined by Teddy Long, who is then joined by Big Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis. I love that guy. People power. Couldn't really hear what they were saying, but we didn't need to. This was all about Johnny Ace coming in at the end, and then Vicky Guerrero says, "Excuse me," just a fun little segment, getting those 3 who were equally in their own rights, brilliant SmackDown GMs, and enjoyed this a lot. I guess the frustrating thing with Raw 25 was that there were so many former talents booked on that show that they all got shoehorned into these awkward backstage segments which were mostly really poorly written and irrelevant and just bad. That fortunately didn't really happen last night. Sure, we saw one-off returns like the three that I've just mentioned, but they all made sense. They were all quick and nice little cameos, a nice little callback to the history of SmackDown. Next up, it's time for Evolution. So out come NXT's Triple H, Drax, Mr. Dick Hand, and the Crypt Keeper, and they're all in their suits or leather jackets, and they just look bloody lovely. Triple H kicks off the promo, and then Flair gets the mic, talks about how many women he's porked, and then Randy Orton gets the mic and brings the heat, saying that Dave Batista has spent more time in a makeup chair than he has in a WWE ring. And I think this was really important. We've seen in recent months Orton become this complete malicious knobend, and it was very important that this heel persona took precedence over some very cheap nostalgia, so I'm glad that this was done. And then Batista gets the mic and we get a promo that reminds me of his dick because it was really, really long. So he lists 4 reasons that he's happy to be here tonight. Number 1, the SmackDown 1000 milestone makes sense. Number 2, being in his hometown of Washington, D.C. makes sense. Number 3, us, the fans, the WWE Universe. Bit cheap, Dave, but makes sense. And number 4, being in the ring once again with his Evolution buddies. Lovely, what a lovely man. Makes sense. He puts over each of the Evolution members. Randy Orton, 13-time world champion, has more talent in his pinky than half of the guys who have ever stepped foot in this ring. Take that, Chuck Palumbo. Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, 16-time world champion, Space Mountain. You just keep that thing in your pants, Rick. And last but not least, this guy, Triple H. 14-time world champion, a man who has changed the professional wrestling business, a man who is this business, a man who has done everything there is to do in this business except one thing. Beat me. Stare down. Right, if you had asked me 24 hours ago if I wanted to see Triple H versus Dave Batista in the next year, the answer would have been an absolute no. But Dave's delivery of those 3 words, combined with an epic crowd reaction, combined with the stare down, hug, stare down again, I want to see it. This one gets a B+. It was so obvious how much fun all 4 of these guys were having, but especially Dave Batista. Mentioning Blue Tista, I thought was great. Mentioning Ric Flair and his porking of countless women, and just, it's so easy to forget how brilliant a promo Dave Batista can be when the scripting is right, but he absolutely proved it here. Loved this. Loved it. Who knows when or if we'll see Dave Batista versus Triple H. Maybe WrestleMania 35 seems like the most obvious choice, but you know what? I'm excited, and I'm not ashamed about that at all. Next, we get a World Cup qualifying match, The Miz versus Rusev with Kurt Angle on commentary, but not for long. This lasted about 45 seconds. It was ludicrous. Almost immediately, Aiden English runs to the ring, makes the distraction, and then Rusev gets rolled up. The Miz is your winner, and that was pretty much it. Thanks for coming, Kurt. After the match, Rusev absolutely destroys Aiden English at ringside, and I just can't give this any more than a D. It was at this point in the show that it became so obvious that SmackDown 1000 was super, super tight on time. I blame you, Dave Batista, but I'm not complaining at all. Enjoy your job at entrances, rest of the card. Backstage, we see Kurt Hawkins and Edge chatting away, but without Zack Ryder, so that doesn't count as an Edgehead reunion. I'm not counting that. Let's move on. To the ring, and out comes the rated R superstar Edge. I love you, Tony Chimmel. Comes out to a huge pop. Still looks absolutely fantastic. One of the greatest SmackDown superstars of all time. And just good to see him back in the ring. Edge talks about some of his biggest moments on the blue brand, cashing in his Money in the Bank against The Undertaker, that incredible no DQ match with Eddie Guerrero, marrying Vicky Guerrero, divorcing Vicky Guerrero, and he's been watching SmackDown for the past few weeks and something has been bothering him. His first guest tonight is none other than the women's champion, the SmackDown women's champion, Becky Lynch. Out comes Becky to a huge pop, and she is welcomed by Edge, and Edge says that he sees a lot of similarities between himself and Becky Lynch, and Becky is making a mistake by throwing away her friendship with Charlotte Flair. And why does Edge know this? Because he's been through it. He says that if there was a friendship in WWE that got in the way of his goals, he crushed it. And that Becky is making the same mistake and that she will end up sat at home, staring at her titles on the wall, alone. Becky gets the mic and says that she doesn't even like herself. She loves herself. And Edge, get out of my ring and careful you don't hurt your neck on the way through those ropes. And then she just holds up the title. A tasteless line. And I loved it. Out comes Charlotte Flair, who runs down Becky Lynch, but this doesn't last for long. They immediately start scrapping, Charlotte hitting her with the spear, and they have to be separated by officials, and Jamie Noble, and Fit Finlay, and bloody everybody. This segment gets a B+ from me. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Edge, you just believe every single word that he says. He hasn't missed a step at all. Becky was evil in what she said, but it got the reaction of the night, and I enjoyed it tremendously, and the brawl after, also really good stuff. So the problem still sort of stands that Becky is being presented as a heel at this point, when she's clearly being cheered out of the building, no matter what she does, week in, week out. But you know what? I don't really mind anymore. As long as she's not running down the crowd for not supporting her when they very, very clearly are, then I don't really see a problem here anymore. She is now one of the most believable characters, not just in SmackDown, but in the WWE overall. A character who speaks with conviction and passion and has a cause and just wants to prove that she is the best women's wrestler in the world. I get the impression that WWE thought that the "don't hurt your neck" line would be the turning point for Becky's character, and finally fans might start to boo her because she's been so evil, but that's not going to work. Becky could literally come out next week on SmackDown dressed as Hitler and announce that she is now the president of the Westboro Baptist Church, and fans are still going to cheer. And if nothing else, that creates some very, very compelling television and a feud worth investing in. Next up, it's the New Day versus The Bar with the SmackDown tag titles on the line, and this for me was absolutely match of the night. A brilliant high energy match. At one point, Cesaro got dropped on the back of his head and that was scary. Thought he was knocked out. Fortunately, he was fine. But let's just skip the match, as good as it was, and let's talk about the ending, which was perplexing, to say the least. So Kofi and Woods have both been taken out on the outside. It looks like the Bar are about to put Kofi through the announce table when all of a sudden, well, it's the Big Show. Okay, the Big Show comes to ringside. It looks like he's going to attack the Bar for being such nasty human beings, but no. He picks up Kofi and chokeslams him through the announce table. Big E looks on, shocked, eats a brogue kick, and gets pinned. Your new tag team champions are the Bar. I'm more than happy with the result, even if the way that we got there was a little bit confusing. It's good to see the Bar as tag champs once again. This one gets a B+. And you know what? On the 1000th episode of SmackDown Live, it was just lovely to see the Big Show make his 1000th heel turn. What a guy. So I'm interested to see where this goes. It looks like the Bar Show, the Big Bar, maybe freebirding the titles, which could make for some interesting dynamics in the coming weeks with the likes of the New Day and maybe, just maybe, Sanity. And now it's time for your main event, a returning Rey Mysterio taking on the United States champion Shinsuke Nakamura in a World Cup qualifying match, except it isn't the main event because The Undertaker is still advertised as appearing. He must be saying something huge to go on after this one. Pretty much exactly what we expected from Rey's return match, with him hitting all of his signature spots and picking up the win qualifying for the WWE World Cup. This match gets a B-, and in the process, we have confirmed that the winner of the World Cup will indeed be an American. America! Not much else to say about this match. It could have done with being a little bit longer. Thanks a lot, Dave Batista. Rey's still in fantastic shape. Good to see him advertised for upcoming house shows. He'll be a huge draw, a very, very valuable asset as far as those house shows go, and he'll spend the next year or so putting over younger talent because he's a bloody lovely bloke. Time for the real main event. After Rey versus Nakamura, the lights go out, and here comes the dead man. So out comes Taker, and after making his full 20-minute entrance, he says 12 words. Well, 13 if DX counts as 2 words. He says, at Crown Jewel, I've got 3 words for DX. Rest in peace. And that's the end of the show. That's it. That's the SmackDown 1000. I'm not expecting him to have an impromptu match or anything like that, but this was underwhelming, to say the least. I'm going to give it an E. I can't bring myself to give it an F because it made sense. It wasn't stupid. It was just underwhelming and a bad end to the show. So last night's SmackDown Live was a mixed bag, as these anniversary shows often are. I thought Batista, Becky Lynch, and The Bar versus The New Day were all fantastic, and I'm going to give this one a C+. Anyway, once again, sorry Jack the Jobber didn't turn up to our SmackDown 1000 reactions. I've asked him, Jack, in future, put a watch on your pillow before you go to bed, because at least then you'll wake up on time. I hate you, Jack. So that's all from me. Thanks for watching, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.